Welcome to the Marketing Nomad Show, the fun pit stop for all your marketing needs to grow your online business to consistent 5K months and beyond. I'm your host, Prit, and I usually talk about online marketing strategies, social media, and I also do share a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey as a business owner, online coach, and a membership owner. If you are an online coach looking for simple, implementable marketing strategies to grow your business, then you've come to the right place. Now let's hop on to today's episode. Welcome back to the Marketing Nomad Show. This is episode number 34. And for those of you who are new, I'm the Marketing Nomad. You can also call me Prit. And I'm also the creator, yes, that took me a little bit of time to figure out who I am. I'm also the creator of the Insta-Savvy Tribe, a monthly marketing membership program that helps you grow your online business to consistent 5K months and beyond. Alrighty guys, today we're kind of gonna go into the 7 steps to get started on your launch webinar. Now let's take a second and figure out what you're gonna learn in today's episode, or basically what I'm going to be talking about, okay? So the first thing we're going to figure out is why exactly do you need a launch webinar when you are launching your coaching program or even your digital course, all right? And then we're going to go over 7 steps that, I teach at the Insta-Savvy Tribe and 7 steps that I have personally implemented for my course launch webinars as well, okay guys? So let's get into today's episode number 34, 7 steps to get started on your launch webinar. Alrighty guys, so that begs the question, why exactly do you need a launch webinar? And better yet, I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. What exactly is a launch webinar? Alright, let's talk a little bit about what's a launch webinar. Now, every time you are planning to launch your course, okay, maybe you have a course that is open certain times of the year, so you have to launch it each time it is open. You need to get that inflow of students. One of the best ways to grab people's attention and to get you on that one-on-one space with them so that you can actually talk about your program and how it's going to help them is something called a launch webinar. It's basically a masterclass that you do on Zoom or on any other platform, guys. It's really up to you. And you talk a little bit about what they're struggling with. You talk a little bit about your expertise, who you are. You also help them a little bit in that launch webinar as well. It might not be as comprehensive of a helping as your coaching program, your paid coaching program, but it is substantial enough for them to consider paying for your course or your coaching program. All right, so that's basically what a launch webinar is. And at the end of the webinar, usually you will talk a little bit about your program and you'll also move into selling your course, okay? But don't worry, we're going to get into all of that. That's actually one of the steps, how to draft your webinar presentation, okay? So we're going to get into that. So now at this point, we sort of know, yay, what's a launch webinar? We've kind of got it sorted out. We know what to do, okay? Now let's figure out why exactly do we need a launch webinar? All right, so one of the first things, and I think I just mentioned it, but you probably might not or might have picked up on it, is that it gives you an opportunity to have that one-on-one with your client. It's kind of a risk-free and no pressure zone that you are creating, rather than if you were to just say, well, hi everyone, this is where I'm going to be talking solely about my product, solely about my coaching program. Please come. You're going to hear crickets. No one's going to show up except maybe your mom, because guys, I have done it, okay? So you don't really want that to happen. And you know what, Mom? Thanks for being the only one who showed up to my lives, my webinars when I first started out. It's actually quite nice that you do that for me. All right, guys. Even now, guys, even though I do have like quite a few people coming on, she actually comes on and supports me, and of course, as any mother does, it gives very embarrassing comments like, go, you can do this, and the world is yours, and stuff like that. It's actually very, very endearing. And yeah, okay, I completely went on a tangent, but feeling very emotional because, well, Sometimes support comes in so many different ways, guys. It's not always monetary support, it's in spirit as well. And just as a side note, you know, the first time I even thought about doing my online business, my mom literally went, okay, how can we help? So yeah, a little bit of a happy stuff over there. So, you know, if your mom's the only one showing up to your webinars or your lives, honestly, give her a hug from, you know, me and from you today, guys, because that's a hell of a lot of support going on over there. Okay, so you don't really want that to happen, even though as much as you love your mom, you want more people to come for your webinar, right? So it's basically, you know, getting people to come into that no pressure zone where you can say, okay, well, I've helped you, this is what you need, this is your problem, this is some solutions. Note that I said that, guys. And if you need more help, then yes, of course, I have my paid program all for you. It's just what you need, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like a natural progression to them figuring out they actually have a problem, to you giving some part of the solution, but still giving them that satisfaction that, okay, I actually gained something from this webinar, from this 1 hour of my time, to then progressing towards, okay, well, if I need more help with this, then I know the go-to expert, and that's this person, because they've already helped me with maybe say 30% of my problem. And if you guys are not aware of my content strategy 30-70 rule, or the 70-30 rule, 70% of your content should be paid, and 30% of your content should be, you know, free. Then do check out episode number 33. It's where I talk about the difference between free and paid content, and how do you decide how much of free content you need to be putting out there. So if you've not caught that podcast episode, I'm going to put the link in the description box below. Feel free to check that out so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that 30% of your webinar content 30% of your content that's free content is actually going to be part of this webinar as well. Okay, that was a little bit of a mumbo jumbo in my head, but we got that sorted out. Alrighty guys, let's then get into a few of the other reasons why a launch webinar is so important. So given that at this point you've helped them solve a problem, am I right? You know, even though it's part of the problem, or it's one problem out of 5 problems that they do have, it still builds trust, because at the end of the day, they have a solution to at least one of their problems, or at least part of the problem, okay? So that makes them see you as the authority in your field, which, if you guys are not aware, in the online coaching business, that's all pretty much what this is about, guys. You have to be seen as the authority in your field, as the go-to person in whatever your niche is, all right? And also, because, you know, at this point, you're talking about the problem that your audience has, and then you're giving them a solution, you're also helping them realize that, hey, you actually got a problem that you probably didn't know about, you know? And it's so important, because sometimes you don't have people converting into a paying client because they didn't even know that you know, they had a problem, you know? They didn't even know that, hey, this can actually be solved by something. Or they didn't even know that they were uncomfortable with it. It's only when you bring something to their attention that they realize every single time they fall into that problem that, hey, this is actually starting to annoy me. So you're bringing that problem to their attention, okay? So that's also one more way to trigger the fact that once they realize they do have a problem, then naturally they are going to start looking for a solution for it, either within themselves with free content, or even your paid content as well, okay? And another reason is that, you know, it gives you and them an opportunity to talk about what they're struggling with, and, you know, you talking a little bit more about yourself. Because at the end of these webinars, of course, you will have a Q&A session where you will be projecting your expertise, you will be giving, you know, full attention to these people out there who are listening to you for the past 1 hour. And given that everything's on spot, because this is a live webinar, right? So given that everything's on spot, it establishes you even more as the authority in your field. And finally, during these webinars, there is a sense of urgency because you are bringing the problem to their attention. You are bringing a solution to them as well. And of course, if you do offer like a bonus for people who were part of your launch webinar, which is something I do recommend, guys. And if you have not watched episode number 28, 10 course launch hacks to sell better, then this is the perfect time. I'm going to put the link in the bio. But in that, one of the hacks is actually to offer a bonus, a limited time bonus, so that you get that sense of urgency. You get people to convert pretty fast, especially on your launch webinar. Okay, so episode number 28, another episode that you should catch in case you haven't caught it. It's all about course launch and 10 course hacks that personally help you convert better and sell better. So pretty good stuff, guys. Alrighty. Okay, so those are basically all the reasons why you need a launch webinar. Now let's go into 7 steps that I do have for you that will help you, launch your webinar from start to finish. Okay? So, step number 1, and I know that this is counterintuitive, but bear with me, guys. I'm going to explain why this is that way, and I've given so much of a build up even before I talked about what that step is. So let me start with the step. The step is to book your launch date. Okay, and at this point you're gonna look at me like I'm crazy and you're gonna say, okay, Prit, I do not even have my course out, I don't even have my webinar slides out, and you want me to book a date? Are you insane? And I'm gonna say that's probably true. Okay, but let me tell you why it is so important to book your launch date first. The reason is that it stops you from procrastinating, which is a very, very, very common problem that I find, with online coaches out there, and yes, including the Insta-Savvy Tribe members as well. There have been, so many times that I've spoken to the tribe members and I'm asking them, well, what happened to your launch? I thought you were planning this launch. And then they said, well, something happened and I had to postpone. Versus when I told them to actually set a date and work backwards, so give yourself 1 or 2 months, but keep that date out there, keep something tangible out there, they actually managed to follow through their course launch. Okay, so again, this is one of the course launch hacks that I do talk about, but for step number 1, you do need to book your launch date. Okay, I would tell you preferably 1 to 2 months from when you decide you want to start your course or your coaching program. 1 or 2, sorry, I don't know what happened to me, but 1 or 2 months, that was a little hard to say. 1 or 2 months is a good time for you to, set up your back-end processes, for you to figure out your course outline, for you to get your paid content created, and all of those stuff. So I recommend from the time you decide you need to launch a course, book your launch date, okay? And make sure it's a tangible date, guys. Give yourself even a time. For example, if you want to say 10th August, 11:55 a.m., my course is going to be launched. I'm going to start promoting it. It's going to be out there live. It's that much more easier for you to work backwards and see how much time you have and how much work can be done, and it helps you plan your work accordingly as well, okay? So that's my trick, guys. This is completely my trick. The trick is to work backwards and not move forward and start calculating how much time you ever need, because you're never going to ever figure that out. It's impossible, okay? It's just going to be like math diagrams all around you and you're never going to calculate it. So figure out a date, work backwards from it, okay? And I wouldn't recommend less than a month because, like I said, it's not just about, fixing out your processes and stuff like that. It's also got a lot to do with your mindset. And 1 month, like giving yourself 1 month of mental prep time is also really, really important, okay? I really want to stress on that as well, okay? And one trick that I do have for you is to announce it to your followers, to your listeners, to your podcast listeners, I just said that, to your YouTube viewers, or even your blog post viewers or your website viewers. Announce the date, because that gives you some sort of tangible date that you now have to seriously work around or work towards, okay? So announce it to the public, and it just helps you keep yourself accountable. If for those of you who struggle with accountability, this is a really good hack to work around that. I personally do struggle with it a bit, not so much, but I do, okay? Especially when I know that I have a tendency to procrastinate something because either I'm afraid of the consequences or something like that. I actually put it out there so that I have kept myself accountable, and no matter what, I will get over what I'm feeling and I will still put it out there. So highly recommend that hack. Okay, so that was step number 1 for you guys. Okay, step number 2 is take a look at your course outline and take a step back. Now, what do I mean by taking a step back? Because obviously I think you understood what does taking a look at your course outline means. Now, taking a step back means you understand that your course might not be stage 1 of where your audience needs to be. Maybe there must be some information that your audience needs to know before they can come into your paid program. So pretend like your course starts at stage 1. Let's pretend, okay? And what is it that your audience needs to know at stage 0 so that they can be prepared for your course? That would be a great launch webinar topic, okay? For example, if I am an Instagram strategy coach, all right, let's take that as an example. And my course is about growing your business on Instagram. Now that is stage 1. So for me, for my audience, stage 0 is probably how to set up your business account. What are the basic profile settings that you need so that you can get your Instagram business account up and running? So that's not entirely what my course is about, but it is good for my audience to know that so that they are mentally prepared. It's through, learning about those basic settings and learning about the coaching program and all of those things that they realize, hey, there's so much stuff I don't know, okay? And there's so much stuff that this person knows and this person can help me with that. And that person, guys, is you, right? So try to take a step back. Figure out what is step 0 in your coaching outline, okay? So I know that some coaches, some online coaches who help you with your online coaching business, that was a complicated sentence, but there are a few, industry experts out there who do say that, you pick a topic in your course and then extrapolate it and then put it out as free content. You can do that, but the problem with that is sometimes there might actually be a disconnect with what your audience doesn't know and what your course is about. So you can start with step 0 and maybe give a sneak peek into your course. So I don't necessarily strike out their suggestion. I just say that you need to take a step back and then smoothly transition into the paid content that you are providing. Okay, guys? So that's basically what I wanted to say for step 2. So a few things that you can ask yourself is, what are some questions that you can answer, okay, that they usually have that could prep them for your coaching program or for your paid service, okay? You can also ask yourself, how do you bring up an awareness that they actually do have a problem to begin with, right? That's also something you need to understand, because not many people, like for example, if you take the Instagram strategy coach example, not many people know that they need an Instagram strategy coach to grow their Instagram business. However, when I do talk a little bit about basic profile settings, I talk a little bit about why a business account is so important. I give them tips and tricks on, the basic profile, bio, and all of those things. That's a smooth transition into my course. Then it makes them aware that, hey, there are so many things that I didn't know. There's so many things that I should know about, and there's so many things that this person can help me with. Okay, so that's basically the journey that you want to take them across. That's the story that you want to lead them through. Okay, so that's, I guess, what I wanted to say, and that's basically what I have talked about as well. And try to take step 0 and then smoothly transition into maybe one part of your course outline so that they get a feel of what your course is about as well. Okay, now we come on to step number 3, and that is to come up with the topic name. Now from step number 2, you pretty much have an idea of what topic that you want to come up with. So now your next step is to come up with a topic name that actually gets their attention, right? You don't want to say, well, basic profile settings for you to know. No one wants to know. No one cares, all right? However, if you were to transform that same very topic into something that gives them a transformation just by looking at the title. For example, if I were to say basic profile settings to convert followers to clients, then that's a catchy one, okay? Because I'm giving them the transformation that they can expect from the webinar, okay? And they're that much more likely, especially if they've been thinking about how to convert their followers to clients. And most of the times, guys, people don't even realize that that's a problem that they have, okay? So I'm also bringing to their attention that, hey, that's actually a problem and there is a solution to that. And it starts with basic profile settings, and then your next step is to get into my paid coaching program, all right? So try to come up with a name that triggers their curiosity. Try to come up with a name that triggers, I wouldn't say triggers their fear, but triggers their thought process that, hey, there's something I don't know and there's something that I could know more about, okay? And I also do want to point out that it doesn't have to be complicated, guys. The more simple your topic name is, the easier it is for them to understand the transformation that you're going to bring about, and the more easier it is for you to convince them to attend your launch webinar, okay? Now, step number 4 is talking about laying your presentation, all right? So in this step, we're gonna kind of go over what your presentation needs to consist. You can use various different platforms to create your course launch webinar. You can use Canva, you can use PowerPoint, so many different ways, guys. Do it however you feel. I personally choose Canva. I don't know why, it's a personal preference, but there's also this amazing feature. I think they recently launched it earlier this year, if I'm not wrong, where you can actually present on Canva and it records it for you. So that's, I think, a fantastic feature, especially for online coaches like us. So if you guys have not checked that out, feel free to do so. And I actually do have an affiliate link for Canva if you're interested. I'll put the description box below. It doesn't charge you anything extra, but you know, it's an affiliate link. All right, guys. So while laying out your presentation, of course, you do have the title, right? You're putting out your title, you're putting out that it is a live masterclass, because there's a certain charm to live masterclasses. I didn't realize this, to be honest with you. I really didn't understand what the hype was when it came to live masterclasses, but then I started implementing live masterclasses every 2 weeks for my tribe members, the InstaSavvy tribe, and I realized that there were so many people showing up for those, those live masterclasses. There's something about going live, whether it's a live Q&A or whether it's a live masterclass. It's just people like that there's something live going on and they get to see it in real time. So don't ever discredit the value of a live masterclass, okay? So the first one, of course, you're gonna have your title. You're gonna talk a little bit about yourself right after. I recommend talking a little bit about yourself because when you are promoting your course launch webinar, you never know where people are coming from, right? They might not even have had personal contact with you. They might not even have followed you on Instagram. They might have just caught your live masterclass on a hashtag somewhere and they're seeing you for the first time. So you do want to give a small introduction of who you are and kind of put your expertise out there. Show off a little bit, guys. That's okay. Completely okay, and actually more than necessary, okay? Whatever it is, your credentials, your qualifications, if you've been through a life experience that makes you an expert in your field, whatever that is, guys, put it out there, okay? And you can even start with a testimonial as well. Okay? Now, once you've talked a little bit about yourself, you can smoothly transition into why you are doing this webinar, because that's also super important, right? You need to understand, you need to set expectations. Now, for the most part, okay, people do expect you to sell at the end of the webinar, but it's always a good practice to tell upfront that, hey, I'm going to be helping you out with this, but if you need more help, then I will be also talking about my coaching program that's there exclusively for you, and I do have bonuses for people who are attending my launch webinar. I know that people are a little hesitant to kind of say, hey, I'm selling, but you know what? Because there is an expectation that you are going to sell, it will be such a huge disservice if you actually didn't tell them up front, or if you didn't sell at all. Okay, so you are an online coach, you are giving out free content, you also do have a paid program that is to help them, right? I mean, it's not really that you're the only person who benefits out of this transaction, it's also them as well, the transformation that you bring to them. So don't be embarrassed by that fact. I think that's what I want to say, but at the end of the day, okay, that's something that I strongly believe in, because it's a mindset that I personally have had to overcome, and it was really difficult for me to overcome as well. So talk about why you're doing this webinar. It's as simple as that. Tell them that, hey, this webinar is all about maybe helping you with basic profile settings, but in the due course of this webinar, if you realize that, hey, there's something more that I need to know, and you need extra help with whatever it is that you're going through, your Instagram, growing your business on Instagram, converting your followers to clients, then I have a solution for you. I will also be talking about my coaching program, which at the end of this live launch webinar as well, okay? Because guys, at the end of the day, it is a course launch webinar, right? So you have to talk about your course at some point, okay? Now, the next thing is, like I said, setting expectations of what they can expect in the webinar. And it's really helpful if you can tell them how much time they will be spending on your webinar. If you can give them exact time slots, like I will be giving you the introduction, 10 minutes is the introduction, 30 minutes is the webinar, talking a little bit about that. And then we have a Q&A session for 15 minutes where I will also be talking a little bit about my course launch, or you can even say it's going to be a 15 minutes talk about my course, and then there's a 10-minute or 30-minute Q&A at the end of it. Set expectations for your webinar. It's one of the most important things, especially when you are selling. When you start to be completely frank and honest, it helps people trust you better. Okay, so it's kind of counterintuitive, I know, but put yourself out there, guys, and you'll be amazed to see how receptive people are to you selling, because you've already told them, hey, I'm selling, right? Duh, it's what they come to expect. Okay, now the next thing, the next few slides would be you slowly getting into your topics, and every now and then, especially when you are kind of showing your expertise in a topic, it is helpful to pick out a testimonial that talks about that area of your expertise. If you don't have that many testimonials, don't worry, okay? I actually do have an episode for you. It's episode number 32, 8 ways to get testimonials. So it's not necessarily about your paid content that you have to get testimonials, as I talk about in that podcast episode. It's episode number 32, guys. I'll put the link in the description box below. But in that, I also talk about how testimonials and comments about your free content is also a testimonial. So keep putting that in there. And if you're really smart, guys, what you will do is during your course launch, not your course launch period, but do you know the 1 to 2 months that I talked to you about? Where you will be prepping for your case, you will actually give free content about the topic that you will be talking about, just a little bit, guys. You don't have to go full blown, and you will start to take screenshots of the comments that you get. So that's all good planning, and that's actually a really good hack. So feel free to implement that as well. Okay, so if you're really smart, you will actually start collecting, you will start positioning your free content so that you can get testimonials to use for your course launch webinar. And of course, if you want to do 1 or 2 beta clients during this 1 or 2 months, that's why you have that breathing space of 1 or 2 months, and it just helps you get those testimonials that you need. Okay, then after that, we're also going to start talking a little bit about your program, and it's going to be a very innocent talk, because at the end of the day, you are talking about a topic that you will be teaching in your paid course as well, right? So maybe you can start talking about how that extrapolates into your paid coaching program. For example, you're only at the tip of the iceberg, right, of your launch webinar. So you have to let them know that there's so much more that's right under the surface. And that's when you start talking a little bit about your program. It's not you hardcore selling. You will hardcore sell at the end of the launch webinar, but this is just you kind of putting breadcrumbs over there that says, hey, I've actually got something for you. And you're kind of building up the excitement to your course launch part of the webinar, okay? So, like I said, you're going to be adding testimonials in between, and it's going to be you talking a little bit about your coaching program as well. And at the end of it, you're also going to have a few slides talking about your coaching program. And not just talking about your coaching program, you need to also talk about the transformation that your coaching program is going to bring about to your audience as well. It's not just about, here are the benefits or here are the course details. No, it's a lot deeper than that. You also need to talk about what exactly can they expect when they walk into your program. Okay, what is your course structure like? What is the end result that they can get? Okay, and what is the problem that you're solving, and also the solution that you are offering through your paid services. And you also, guys, and I know that this is one of the biggest mistakes that I do see, is you also do have to talk about the cost of your program. All right, don't skirt it, don't be ashamed of it, don't be paranoid that they're going to leave the webinar, because some of them will. I mean, quite but natural. Okay, maybe 5 to 10% of your audience will stay on and hang on to what you have to say, and that's okay, guys. That's just numbers. It's a numbers game, especially when it comes to marketing. It's always a numbers game. Only a small percentage of your followers will convert. Only a small percentage of your listeners will convert. Only a small percentage of your website visitors will convert. Only a small percentage of your webinar visitors. What is up with my pronunciation today? All right, only a certain percentage of your webinar visitors will convert, okay? And you have to be mentally prepared for that. It's all part of the game. It's all part of marketing, to be very honest with you, okay? So that's when you start talking about your program, you start talking about the cost, the investment. If you have some limited time bonuses, which I talk about in my 10 course launch hacks episode, it's episode number 28. I'll put it in the description box below. You can feel free to listen to that as well. So at this point, you finished talking about your program, and now it's back to them. Now you put the spotlight back to them, where they ask you questions either about your program. You can expect that as well, but you can also expect questions about whatever you have just taught. So that's also a really nice way. And of course, following up with the people who actually do take the time to attend your webinar. And basically that's how you will end that. Few people might sign up on spot, few people might need some time to think, which is why it's also important that you follow up with these people. And that's a little bit later. Don't worry about it, but you will have to set up an email sequence that tells them, hey, this is my launch webinar, this just happened. If you are interested, I do have a limited time bonus, and then maybe give them a few extra incentives. So we're going to talk about setting up your email campaign in a little bit. It's not the next step, but it's a step after that. Okay, so you're going to end it with a Q&A session. So that's how your presentation is going to look like. Now, step number 5 is you've got not necessarily your entire slides done. That will take time, of course. So in the meantime, you also do have to set up a landing page with an intake form. And remember, I told you guys, right, that it's 1 to 2 months of time that you will have to, promote your launch webinar. That's a lot of time. So you want people to remember that you exist, right? And you want people to sign up immediately for that course launch. You don't want them to kind of delay and forget about you, or find another coach that actually teaches them what they need to know. So set up a landing page with an intake form, and get people's email addresses, explain why the webinar will be useful. And it's important to write all of this down on your landing page and not just put a form over there, because guys, at the end of the day, there might be people who are still not yet ready, or still wondering if they should sign up for the webinar or not, whether it's for them, whether it will be really helpful, because all said and done, it's 1 hour of their time, right? So you want to make sure that they know what to expect, and as much as possible, you're convincing the right people as well. It's helpful for you too, right? You don't want people who it's not going to help them. If it's not going to help them, then you probably don't want them to attend, because they're least likely to convert to your coaching program as well. All said and done, you want to explain why your webinar is going to be useful, what's the transformation they can expect with the webinar, and the testimonials that you have for your free content. If you put them out, your paid content as well, put those out there so that people know, hey, this person's actually an expert, and I really want to attend their launch webinar. Okay? Step number 6, start promoting it. Of course, you do need to start promoting it. You have about 1 to 2 months. That's a lot of time, guys. I'm not saying you have to promote it every single second of the day, or every single hour, or every single day even. But if you are talking a little bit about it at least every alternate day, or you are showing people behind the scenes of how you're creating your slides, how you're setting up your program, how are you designing your paid content, even as you are talking through that, you are actually technically selling, okay? Don't forget that. That's all passive selling, but that's still selling, okay? So you have 2 months, or 1 to 2 months, whatever you decide, it's your preference, but you have 1 to 2 months to do that. Include that in your content strategy, especially for your Instagram stories, your podcast. You can even, hop on the podcast and talk a little bit about what you did that day, how your course is coming out, and all of those things, and get that excitement going, because at the end of the day, the more they start to invest in your journey of creating that course, the more likely they are going to be connected and feel strongly for that course, and the higher your conversion rates are going to be, okay? And then, talking about content strategy, I do have a 365 content ideas guide for you on my Etsy shop. If you are interested, I'll put it in the description box below. It's basically $9.99, and it gives you content ideas for the entire year. It's strategy based, so basically it is a healthy balance between you selling and you promoting your services, you talking about yourself, and a holistic view of your business as well. So, and of course, the benefits and positioning you as the expert. So if you are interested, that is available in my Etsy shop, 365 content ideas, at just $9.99, and I'll put that in the description box below. All right? Now, the last step, step number 7, is to keep an email sequence ready. And I'm not just saying for after the webinar. I'm actually talking about an email sequence for before your webinar starts. And the reason is this. Suppose people sign up for your webinar that's probably a month or 2 months away. You want to make sure that you are keeping those touching points with them, okay? They're not going to forget about you, and you want them to keep remembering that, hey, this launch webinar is coming up. Keep that excitement going. Keep that their mind on you and not looking elsewhere for that solution as well. So keep an email sequence ready. I would say probably 1 or 2 every week. That's value based. Maybe you can lead them to your blog posts, or your podcast episodes, or your Instagram page, or something you posted on LinkedIn. Whatever that is, guys, it doesn't really matter what you send them to, as long as it's value-based emails. And I would say 1 to 2 a week should be more than enough, all right? Also, you want to keep a few emails. 1, reminding them 24 hours before your webinar is present, because you want to give them that prep time, and you never know. People don't really check their emails that often sometimes. You never know, guys. So you want to make sure that you are reminding them 24 hours before, 3 hours before, 1 hour before, 15 minutes before, and exactly at the moment your launch webinar starts. You might think that it's too much, but it really helps, because people are forgetful. I mean, we have pretty busy lives, right? You can't expect them to be sitting on their computer and waiting for you to start your course launch webinar. Most likely they're doing something else, they forget about it, and then they realize, whoops, I missed their webinar. And then they were like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. And you never want to get them at that stage, right? You want to make sure that they're excited, pumped, and they're reminded exactly at the moment that your webinar is going to start. And of course, you do have to have an email sequence for after your launch webinar is done, reminding people that, hey, this launch webinar was there, it was super, super awesome. Here are a few testimonials of people who attended the webinar. This is in case there will be some people who didn't attend the webinar, right? So you want to remind people that, hey, the webinar was awesome, you missed it, but it's okay. You know, I've still got the free content for you. Here's probably a replay of it. And here's also my coaching program details. And then you want to send them a series of emails that are actually selling your coaching program. All right. So this is basically how you will prep for your course launch webinar, and then you have your course launch all set. And the next 2 weeks will be your promo time, or however long you decide. You can have a month-long promotion, whatever it is that is suited to your needs. All right. So that brings me to the end of this podcast episode. I do have a freebie for you. That's 10 ways of how to build your email list. If you are looking, you know, especially for your course webinar, you need to start building your email list. These are 10 pretty simple ways that you can actually start building your list, and it's going to be so effectful. It's just come to a point where I'm just making up my own words, guys. Okay, so it's going to be so much more effective and, you know, for you to use in those 2 months. If you're interested, I'll put that in the description box below as well. All right, guys. So let me just go over the 7 key points that I do have for you very quickly, guys. The first one is you want to book your launch date. You want to kind of go reverse engineer the whole thing. Step number 2 is you want to take a look at your course outline, and you want to take a step back. I told you guys what taking a step back meant. Okay? Step number 3 is to come up with a topic name that's super simple, guys, and obviously triggers their curiosity. Step number 4, you want to lay out your presentation. I gave you the steps and the slides that you need to put in your presentation. Then, of course, you want to set up a landing page with an intake form for your course launch webinar. You also, step number 6, want to start promoting it. And of course, step number 7, you want to keep an email sequence ready, not just before your course launch webinar, but also for after your course launch webinar. Alrighty, guys, that brings me to the end of this podcast episode. I do have a small hack for you though. If you are interested in putting a countdown timer for your emails, there's this website that I use. It's completely free. It's called Sentric.com, SENDTRIC.com. I'll put the description in the box below. I'm not an affiliate, guys. It's free, but it's really helpful for me. And a few of my tribe members have also tried it out, and they found it really successful for them as well. So basically, gives you an HTML code that you can put in your email, and then you can set the timer, and then when people get the email, kind of creates a sense of urgency. So if you're interested in that, I'll put that in the description box below, and you can try it out for yourself. It's completely free, okay? Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. If this episode helped you, please feel free to leave me a review so that helps me to help more online coaches like you, and it also helps me do what I love doing. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, feel free to give me a thumbs up, like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel as well, guys. And also, guys, if you are listening to any of the podcast platforms, please do subscribe because that tells you every single time I do upload a podcast episode, which is once every 3 days. There's no specific schedule to it. I also kind of release episodes on Saturdays and Sundays as well. It's just once every 3 days. Okay, guys, if you haven't caught me on Instagram, I am The Marketing Nomad on Instagram as well. Feel free to, leave comments, send me a hi, tell me which part of this podcast episode really resonated with you, which part you are super excited about implementing, and I, of course, guys, will always love to hear your journey as well. Okay, guys, I hope you guys are staying super safe, super healthy. I'll catch you guys in my next podcast episode. Bye-bye.